Live. What's going on? My name is Dr. Ben Glass. Welcome, viewers. And I'm really excited today because I get to interview a friend of mine who just published a book called Unlock Your Healing Potential, Dr. Ryan Savola, coming to me from out in Spain. I'm out in California, Bay Area. Dr. Ryan, can you kind of introduce yourself and just share a little bit about what your background is, just for the viewers to better understand who you are, what your sort of background was before you decided to write this book?
Yeah, thanks, Ben, for having me on. Yeah, so I've been a chiropractor for about 10 years now. Went to chiropractic school in the San Francisco Bay Area. Uh, with you, we went together. About 10 years that's been a long time already.
A
After
lot of
chiropractic,
experience.
I was focusing a little bit on pregnancy and kids. I really liked that aspect. And then I kind of got into a little bit of the sports scene. And then from there, I ended up doing some postdoctorate studies in sports. So I became a member of the International Chiropractic Sports Association. And that's where you can travel, all around the world for different sporting events. It could be something simple like rock climbing or a soccer match or basketball or taekwondo tournament, or something big like this year's coming up in Alabama, the World Games. I would love to go to that. That sounds exciting. And
Hmm.
even all the way up to the Olympic level, where chiropractors can go and participate in the what they call the village, the little medical center that they have there. That they have access to, uh, medical, physio, chiropractic, just everything any of those professional athletes could want. So um, that's that. I run two practices over here, two clinics. And, I see quite a few people. I'm happy with where I'm at, and that's me. And so what really got me to writing this book is that, and you and I think just every other chiropractor out there, we get asked the same questions over and over again, and we tend to see the same types of people over and over. I mean, how many people have you seen that has sciatic pain or headaches or migraines? And it's very rare that someone comes in today and it's like, well, I have a brand new problem that I never even heard of, or something very strange. I mean, that happens less and less, and as time goes on, it almost never happens anymore. So it's like, I don't have a lot of time with these people. I'm spending between 10 and 15 minutes per person,
Hmm.
and there's so much more information that maybe they would want to know, or that I would like to give them, but I just don't have the time to do it. So I said, well, maybe I can put all these ideas down into a book.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I did, and that's how this process got started. I mean, the book's here. I'm happy to have it published. Unlock Your Healing Potential. So
Ooh,
that's
that
where
looks
I'm at
thick. That
right now.
looks like a thick book right there. So I definitely want to get deeper into your interest in sports chiropractic a little bit later in this conversation. But for right
Great.
now, let's just talk specifically about this book. It looks pretty thorough, very, very thick book over there. How many pages is it?
Yeah,
Uh,
I just looked when you said that right now. It says I think it's 300 and 301 pages. It is.
Okay. So in today's world, we live in like a bite-sized information consumer culture. I mean, there are people that read books from cover to cover, but for the person that's navigating through your book, obviously they're going to read the introduction. They're going to get to understand what your sort of approach or theory behind this book is. But how do you recommend they consume this book? How can somebody really get through this book and take away as much as you want them to?
Yeah. So after reading a few other books, some on nutrition, some on exercise science, I found a certain flow that they did, and that is they divided the book into parts, and that's what I did here, two parts. The first part, I want everybody to read to kind of understand why we get sick, why we have chronic pain, why we have these problems in our life. And then once you read that and have a good understanding, it's there always for reference. You can always go back. But the second part is, what are the solutions? And that's where I want people to kind of come back and get to that. And we talk about the use of exercise, diet, the importance of chiropractic care. I touch on using asana, meditation, being in nature. There's quite many different things that we can do to help us heal. and recover. And then that's the section where I really wanted people to kind of go back to. Like the diet, for example, a lot of people forget, what's good, what's bad, and then they can kind of just boom, flip to that section, read about it. Exercise, what are some good exercises? Boom, it's right there. And I try to make this very patient oriented, very simple, and try to take some of these complicated concepts like the autonomic nervous system and make it so it's easily digestible for any person off the street.
Okay.
So that's the basis of it.
hmm So can we just like really start from the beginning? What's the story you want to tell people? What's the message? Like, what's the why behind this book? Why should somebody read this book?
Yeah, so the idea is, and we've been hearing this ever since we attended the chiropractic school, and they always talk about what is the chiropractic story? Tell your story. And at first, I always thought that had to do something with like telling about the philosophy and innate intelligence and that. And but then you can really tell this story any other way you want. The idea is to get the main message across. It's like, why do we get sick, right? So we go into stress. If we go down to the basic level that there is, stress is the cause of every single problem you have with your health. Okay, name any disease, any chronic pain, any problems you can think of, and we can get it down to the basic level of stress. And then we divide stress into 4 parts. There's physical, chemical, emotional, and I put electromagnetic in there. Those 4 types of stress. So physical, a fall, a car accident, bad posture, lifting something up, you get hit. I mean, any type of physical stress, a lot of people understand that fairly easy. Chemical stress, if we smoke, if we drink, if we eat bad, the pollution outside, there's different makeup and perfumes and antiperspirants and candles, and there's a long list of chemical stuff that can create problems with our health. And then emotional stress, a lot of people understand that physical and emotional are pretty simple to convey. Stress with work, with family, you're worried about stuff, you have a lot on your mind, nervous person, emotional stress. And then electromagnetic stress, which we don't tend to think about too much, but we're constantly surrounded by Wi-Fi, using our phone, the computer. There's a lot of different types of radiation. Think of something like an electric blanket that's on your back, and at first you think, oh, it's nice and warm, that's helping. But then what are the consequences of having that? Things like baby monitors, and there's a lot of stuff that can affect us negatively in the electromagnetic realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of explain those to get people kind of familiar of what the different types of stress are. And once you read it and kind of, it's very easy to understand. Then everybody's, oh yeah, okay, now I understand. So then what happens is when we have, because all the stress makes the same response in the body. And that's where I really focus on this book. And the stress creates tension in the body. We become stressed out. So it's not a whole lot of difference if I yell at you, or if I hit you in the arm, or you take a shot of tequila right now, or you smoke a cigarette, right? Your response is that you become tense, you become defensive, and then that's where we get into the autonomic nervous system, where we talk about the difference between sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the sympathetic
Just to
nervous
go a
system.
little deeper with that piece, because I think that's a key piece
Yeah, go
to
ahead.
really help people better understand. If I take a shot of tequila, I might not necessarily feel like I'm going into a tense, defensive posture or experience. I'm not stressed, but on the physiological level, on the neurological level, our nervous system actually contracts. I think
Right.
it's important to let people know that our body doesn't know any different whether we're in a physical, stressful situation where, like you said, we're sitting in a crappy posture, or if we are basically in a great situation, the nervous system just reacts and responds to its environmental stimuli, right?
Exactly.
And so can you talk a little bit more about the science behind stress and what's happening to our body, so that people can better understand kind of why we get sick?
Yeah. Like you said, you had a good point. If I hit you really hard, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna know that I hit you in that moment. But if you smoked a cigarette, or if you have a candle burning in the background and you don't know, or if you have your phone between your legs. I mean, those things are affecting us, and we may not perceive that right away. But it's a little tiny accumulative stress. And that over time can create this shift in what we're talking about, the nervous system. And yeah, the science about stress, and everybody agrees that stress is deadly. Stress kills, right? And more and more we look at the science, the more we're seeing that. And then everybody's talking nowadays about things that we can do to reduce our stress. Okay, a lot of talks about yoga and meditation and mindfulness and everything. Even in the workplace, they're changing the typical way we work. People are taking little breaks. There's a whole shift in the consciousness of the entire world about what we can do to reduce or relieve some of our stress, right? And so that comes back to that, what stress actually does. Why is stress so deadly to us? And the next level of the stress would be that autonomic nervous system, what we're talking about, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And then so that's the next level up. And so when you get stressed out, whether it's any four of those types of stress, it creates a sympathetic tone. What that means is that when you're in a sympathetic tone, more so than a parasympathetic tone, you're in what's called a fight or flight state. So I explain it to my patients like, imagine there's a bear or a lion right next to you. You only have two options, right? You can either fight that bear or lion and try to save your life, or you can turn around and run the other way and hope that they get distracted and they don't catch you, right? Right. In that moment, your digestion is not important. Healing from anything is not important. All the different things that we do when we're resting, like you're not thinking about loved ones, your concentration doesn't matter. That math exam that you have to do tomorrow, nothing matters. The only thing that matters is that you survive, right? And that's why they call it that fight or flight state. And that's a really good state to have when we need it, and times of stress, acute stress.
When would be some times where it's actually beneficial to have that type of a stress response to something?
A good simple example would be a car accident. Everybody knows that, or most people know, especially chiropractors, because we see a lot of car accident victims. A lot of times they get in a terrible car accident, that person is able to walk out and they look as if they're fine. Then what happens the next day? They wake up in bed and they can't move, and their entire body just shut down, and they're just so that giant adrenaline sympathetic rush was a survival mechanism. It's like, wow, we just got really hit hard, and now we need to figure out what we can do to get to safety. And then it doesn't matter what else happens. You're in that sympathetic tone, and you're ready to survive. And then when they finally make it to their bed, which is a safe place, right? Then that parasympathetic system starts to shift a little bit, and then we create inflammation, and the body becomes tense, and then you wake up and everything hurts. And that's the body's response of trying to tell you, hey, we're messed up. We need to do something to fix this. So yeah, that would be a very simple example to see where that shift's going.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. The message that I think is clear in your book is that we are designed to get stressed out, and we're also designed to relax. The problem is that we're getting stressed out and we're not relaxing enough. We're not finding
Right.
ways to offset some of the stresses of our daily life, whether it's our job or the type of food we eat or the air we breathe or the water we drink. So what are some strategies that people can expect to come away with after reading your book? Or like, what are some takeaways that you want people to come away with that can really help them improve their life or unlock their healing potential?
Yeah. So what the concept is that when you become that sympathetic tone dominant state where you're stressed out, that's okay in acute situation. It's life saving. But when it stays like that constantly because of little types of stress that are constantly affecting you every single day, you stay more in that sympathetic dominant tone, or and you're not shifting so much so in the parasympathetic, which we call the rest and digest. And I like to put in there healing. I mean, healing would be under the rest, but a lot of people just don't associate rest and healing. So that's our healing state. That's where we recover. So, chronic stress, somebody that works all the time and they have to come home, and then they have the kids, and maybe they smoke some cigarettes, and they're just constantly bombarded. And, if they do any of one of these things just one day, it's not a big deal. But multiply that over years, and then we have this big problem. And so if we don't do anything about it, that's going to turn into chronic pain and chronic disease. And so what I found something out by writing this book is that I was just kind of looking at all these different peer-reviewed studies, and I found a pattern. And I start to look at every single chronic disease that I found, and I couldn't find one chronic disease that didn't have a elevated sympathetic tone. So where you're stressed out. So you pick any disease that you have. And in fact, I have right here on the computer, and I looked up the top 10 causes of death in the United States, right? That heart disease, cancer, lower respiratory infections, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, pneumonia, chronic, kidney problems. Like, all of those are chronic conditions that have to do with an elevated sympathetic tone. And so if we can shift from that elevated sympathetic, chronic, stressed out state to a healing, relaxed state, then we can heal from all of these different issues, whether it's chronic pain or chronic disease. It's like, name any chronic disease, and we can tell you what we need to do to heal from that. Any chronic pain, and let's talk about it. We can fix these things. How do we fix them? We need to shift to that parasympathetic state. How do we do that? The best and fastest and easiest way to do it is chiropractic care. That's what we do, right? Mm-hmm. By making those adjustments, we can make a phenomenal change very quickly to bring somebody from that high sympathetic, stressed out state to a more relaxed, healing state. And we see that in office every day. Okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you and me, we're probably seeing upwards of 150, 200 people a week. And there's a reason for that, because we're making progress. People are healing, and people tell other people that are messed up, and that just keeps coming in. There's a reason that we see so many people, and that chiropractic is so effective with so many different things. But that's just the basic level. If they go back to their same lives and they don't change anything else, then that problem is going to come back. I mean, I guess for business, that's good for us, because that patient's going to keep coming back and back and back, and we're going to stay in business forever. But that's not great for the patient. So what else can we do? Okay, we talk about diet, we talk about exercise. We know about that a lot. We spread that a lot with our patients. But what is the best diet? There's so many diets out there, and I try to go over from all the diets. I've studied nearly all of them, and I try to figure out what's the best one out there. So I put that in the book. Exercises. There's a million different exercises. What's the best exercise that we can do? So I pick my top 5 favorites and I say, okay, these ones would be the best exercise we can do. You can do anything, but if we can do these 5, even better. Mm-hmm. Then I touch in on other healing things, such as going on a hike, being in nature, meditation, the use of a sauna, why is sleeping so important, and incorporating all that into the second part of the book is, how we heal and what we can do about it. So the first part is tell the story, why we get sick. Second part is what we're going to do about it to get well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I have all kinds of knowledge as a chiropractor of what I need to do, but there's a gap there sometimes in knowing what I need to do and actually doing what I need to do. So how do you recommend people take the information that you're sharing with them through this book, or just as chiropractors? I mean, every day we're giving strategies to people. Now that we got you to relax with this adjustment, we might have you more in tune with your body and the choices you're making. Now it's time for you to go out and actually live a life that's more aligned with health and well-being. How can we really kind of walk people towards actually making those decisions? I mean, people have to do it for themselves. They have to believe enough that it's important, but how can we raise that level of importance? I think that a book like this could be really valuable in improving people's understanding. So your beliefs determine your behaviors, right? So the more somebody understands why it's good to make these decisions, the more likely they're going to make the decisions. But I always find like there's a gap there. It's self-control. Like, how can we be in control? We know it's not good to eat the donut. We know we should eat the salad, but we still eat the donut. So what are some recommendations that people can use to take the information that they're going to get in this book and actually put it into practice?
Yeah. So that's why in the second part I had, I talk about a bunch of different things. Yeah, obviously, people aren't just going to jump in and do every single thing that I say. But if I can get that one person to start eating broccoli a couple times a week, that their help, that's a little bit of a baby step, right? Maybe after reading this, someone's like, okay, well, I'm going to try to go on a hike on Sundays. And then they just, even if they just 1 hour a week, that's 1 hour more than what they were doing before. Some of the simple things, even my mom, I always struggled to get her to eat well and exercise. And I talked to her about, it's like, okay, well, what about a sauna? You look at some of the sauna, and using a sauna 2 or 3 times a week for, 20, 30 minutes can reduce your all cause mortality, which means that you could die from any of these things. It reduces all of that by upwards of like 40%. And so I told her that, and that was like the easiest, laziest way you can do it. So look, all you got to do is buy this sauna, go sit in it a couple times a week for like 30 minutes. That's easy. You could bring your phone, look at some videos on Facebook or whatever you're going to do, and time goes by and you're done. And she did it. And she noticed health benefits right away. I'm still working on her to fix the diet and do more exercise. And there's a lot of stuff that we can improve. But as long as I get somebody to do a little bit of a shift that to better help their overall health, I think the book was a success. Now, if they do everything in there, you're going to have near perfect health. But if somebody can do a little bit more exercise or eat a little bit better, or maybe practice the meditation part in here, it's like 5 minutes. I try to explain how do you meditate for 5 minutes, and it's like, who doesn't have 5 minutes in a day? And then to see these benefits, and then I try to back everything I said in the entire book by good peer-reviewed scientific studies, and so that people can say that they can read and see that this information is actually coming from really reputable sources. So I tried my best to make it as scientific as possible, and as very clear and easy reading as possible. So if they can just take a little portion of this and better their health, then it was worth it. That's how I see it.
Phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, you put in a lot of effort. How long did it take you to write this book? This was a long time coming, right?
Yeah, so it took like about a year and a half. Fortunately, one of the COVID was bad for everybody, but it was actually good for me because here in Spain, they locked us down for 2 months and we couldn't, basically leave your house unless you're going to buy food. Or so I couldn't work because I was 2 months on lockdown. And that 2 months is where I, put in like 5 or 6 hours a day and just started writing, a good majority of the book. And then over the summertime, just editing it. Over Christmas time, just playing with I have some pictures in there and this and that. It takes a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. But yeah, about a year and a half or so, and I finally got it done. It's in the process of being translated because over here in Spain, people speak Spanish. I'm working on that, but the main part is done, and now I'm just trying to get the message out there so people can better their health. That's the goal.
And if we could kind of hone in on who this is written for, obviously everybody could benefit from, the information laid out. But in today's world, the more specific you can be of who you're really targeting and who you're reaching, the more specific, the better. So can you kind of like give a couple of examples of maybe a high schooler, maybe somebody in college, maybe somebody that
yeah
is in a healing crisis or is dealing with
right. So
chronic disease?
the book again is targeted for my patients. So the idea was that it's an easy read. It's not too complicated. I touch a little bit into the more complex scientific side, but just a little bit. Also, like a chiropractic student or even another chiropractor can read it and kind of get a refresher. And you would read this book right now and you would know 90% of the material, but just kind of read and seeing how the flow, and it kind of just turns that thinking mind on and kind of reminds us a little bit. So yeah, anybody can read it, pick it up and read it. Specifically, I wrote it for my patients, and for anybody that's not in the healthcare world that would like to learn more about healing. So if you're sick, if you have problems, take a look. Here it is, and see if you can better your health. So
Unlock Your Healing Potential, Dr. Ryan Savola. We'll post a link in the description below. Do you have any specific messages that you want to share with people that are looking to find the book? Where can they find it? How
yeah,
can they learn more about it? Read some of what's in there, get a sample of what you're presenting.
yeah. So on Amazon, it's on Amazon. I think they allow you to read like the first like 50 or 60 pages or something. So people can get a glimpse in it, and that's a good starter. And if you like it, you can buy the book. I try to keep the price as low as possible. I'm not making any money off this book very much. Amazon takes a fat chunk, and then the other part is printing. So I'm probably making a few bucks per book. But it wasn't about the money. It's about spreading the message, because I'm trying to help people heal. So this is just a complementary thing apart from what I do in the practice. And then other people that are not related with me in the practice, or my family and friends from back home in California, they can pick this book up and get some of the information out of it, and they can help their health as well. So I'm trying to broaden my ability to help people that are not just in person with me in my office. And so I thought that having a book was a good idea. So I'm really happy to have it done. And I hope people go out and buy it and they like it, and it helps change their health for the better.
Yeah, and truth is, I don't see enough books being written by chiropractors. So thank you. Phenomenal work to really package our approach, our perspective into something that people can take, and it's thorough, it's holistic, it's comprehensive.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, because I'll be sharing it with my patients. So
yeah,
keep it up. We gotta get it to the people though, man. This marketing is a real serious piece to all this, right? Like chiropractic has a marketing issue. It's not being connected to the people that need to hear its message. Like, I feel like chiropractic needs to be primary care. It's the first thing that people go and experience, but most people don't go to chiropractors until it's the fourth or fifth thing that they're trying to do to help themselves. So
yeah.
Hopefully this book can be that bridge that helps people find chiropractic first and see chiropractic as this sort of world of possibility of how they can improve their health, mental, emotional, physical, chemical, electromagnetic. So can we just talk a little bit about electromagnetic stress? So
Sure.
What would you describe electromagnetic stress to like most impact in the body, and how can we adapt?
Okay, so give you a simple an example. For example, a lot of people drive in their car, and I see this with friends, and you've seen it too. They take the phone, and a lot of times they put it right between their legs as they're driving, because it's a comfortable place. Especially in older cars, they don't have like a nice center console where you can rest it there. Our sexual organs, the ovaries and the testes, they are like 8 times more sensitive to that type of radiation than any other part in the body. And then that can lead to problems, reproductive problems. It can even cause cancer in those areas. And then that's just a strong example of having a cell phone use there. Then there's we talk about the electromagnetic. It doesn't just have to be just from the radiation part. I also talk about just for example, the use of the phone itself. With the bad posture, and all the the different myriad of problems that using the phone and social media and spending too much time on that, and that create a bunch of different problems for us, and not just postural but mental health as well. Get on Instagram, and all you see is just all these people living these false fake lives. They only post pictures and videos and their best moments with all these filters, but you don't really see what the other part of their life is. You only see the good parts. And so if you're at home and you're watching this, and then all of a sudden you feel depressed because you see so and so that you may have known in high school, and they're over there traveling on the beach and this, and they're happy, and they have all these poses and this and that, and it's all fake. And and what we see that it's hurting more the young people. And before, I've been here almost 10 years now, and there's a big plaza below. Before, I used to see a bunch of people playing, soccer and running around riding bikes. And now you don't see that. You look out there in the plaza and you see a bunch of kids sitting around on their phones. And the stress that's causing. I mean, that's one part, and it's hurting the kids more than it is anybody else, and that's a shame. But we could talk about the use of video games, or the electric blanket, the hair dryer. The hair dryer emits a lot of radiation, and that's right next to the head. And so how much problems can women have with their head? We talk about tumors and brain cancer and stuff, and how much is that related to using a hair dryer, for example? There's a lot of those things out there that we don't fully appreciate, but they're there. Same thing with the laptops. They have the batteries. You put that right on your lap, and the closer it is, the more harm it can do. The good thing for like phones and laptops and stuff like that, the further you get away, exponentially reduces its effect. So if you put your phone on speaker, and we're talking a little bit distance away, it's way less harmful than if you just holding it up to your ear the whole time, right?
Okay.
So yeah, that I talk about that way more in depth in the book, and I give example of all these very common things that create the electromagnetic part of the stress.
Right on, right on. Well, I appreciate the conversation. I think that's enough to give people a perspective of where you're coming from, what the book's about, why they should consider spending some time with it. Just because, as we enrich our minds with information that can help us lead a better life, we just grow as people, and that's what we're put here on this planet to do, is grow, develop our understanding of how we could just be better versions of ourselves. And it sounds like that's what your book is all about, is like, I'm going to distill my knowledge as a doctor, as somebody who's been in practice for 10 years and seen thousands of people, and give you a condensed Cliff Notes version of it. Even though it's a long book, I'm sure they can skip to certain sections that are of interest, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, the first part is telling the story why we get sick. Then I talk about certain different conditions. And, if you don't have that condition, you don't have that problem, you can skip it. A lot of people might just get it and go and want to figure out what's the best diet that's out there. What's the best way to eat? It's in the book. What are the best exercises? It's in the book. If they just take a little piece of that and it helps them in any way, I'm happy and I did my job. So it's there. It's a tool. It's like going to the gym. How many different machines are there? You may go and you only use 5 machines, and there's 100. Right? 100 is available. They're there if you want to use them. If you're happy with your 5, that's great. The important thing is that you're in the gym and you're working out, right? So the important thing is to pick up the book, try to take something beneficial from it, and make a change in your life for the better. So